In my previous life, I didn't play that video at the wedding. I was a model wife for 5 years, paving the way for Julian and clearing his name. I even raised the son he accidentally had with Stella, the one he always pined for. On my deathbed, he walked into the hospital room with Stella in his arms and told my son, "Call her mom. From now on, our family of 3 will never be separated again." Julian turned to look at me, a cruel smile on his face. "Thank you, Eleanor, for helping me make her a star and for raising my son. Now you can die." I died on the spot. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the wedding, at the moment of exchanging rings. They asked loudly, "Ms. Eleanor, do you take this man?" I picked up the remote control and pressed play. The massive large screen at the wedding venue lit up instantly. The sweet wedding photos that had been playing on a loop were replaced by a high-definition private video. On the screen, Julian, the A-list actor who was about to become my husband, was naked and entangled with Stella, his rising star and the one he always pined for. "Julian, are you really going to marry her?" Stella's voice was tearful as she clung weakly to Julian. "Only by marrying her can I get the resources and help you land the lead role in director's blockbuster film." Julian's voice was one I had never heard before, full of tenderness and patience. "But what about our child? He's almost a year old and still can't call you daddy." "Sweetie, just wait a little longer. Once I have full control of the company, I'll divorce Eleanor. She's just a tool to pave the way for me. You and our child are everything to me. Julian, you're so good to me." The content was unbearable, and the dialogue was utterly shocking. The entire venue fell silent. Thousands of guests, hundreds of media outlets, and countless online viewers all witnessed it. Margaret's eyes rolled back, and she simply fainted from anger. Robert rushed forward and punched Julian in the face. "You beast! How dare you do this to my daughter?" Julian's agent, Brenda, who had been frantically signaling me just a second ago, now looked as pale as a ghost. She shrieked and rushed backstage, "Turn it off! Cut the live stream! Where are the security guards?" But the remote control was in my hand. I turned up the volume. Julian finally snapped out of his shock. His eyes bloodshot, he lunged at me, his expression so ferocious it looked like he wanted to devour me. "Eleanor, you're crazy. Are you trying to destroy me?" He tried to snatch the remote control but was firmly held back by the groomsman beside me. He was my best friend, and the only one who knew my plan. "Don't touch her." My friend's voice was cold. I looked at Julian, the man I had loved for 2 lifetimes, and smiled. "Destroy you? Julian, isn't this your true face? I'm just helping you make it public. You should thank me. You lunatic. You woman." Julian struggled frantically, cursing at me. Stella also rushed out from the guest seating. Dressed in a pristine white bridesmaid dress, she wept profusely and knelt directly in front of me. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Eleanor. It's all my fault. Please don't blame Julian," she cried as she timidly reached for Julian's arm. "Julian, don't be angry, it's all my fault. I seduced you. Hit me, scold me. Please don't argue with Ms. Eleanor." What a perfect faux innocent. In my previous life, it was this pitiful act that deceived me for 5 whole years. I looked down at her. "Get up, stop acting here. Didn't you say I was just a tool? How could a mere tool deserve your kneeling?" My voice, amplified by the microphone, clearly resonated throughout the entire hall. Stella's face instantly drained of color. The chat comments exploded. "Holy moly! The wedding of the century turned into the scandal of the century. The A-list actor cheated and made his fiancée raise his son? That woman is Stella, right? The and innocent image? Gross. You go, girl. Well done. Nailed those 2 on the spot. Eleanor is so calm, I love her. This is a strong female lead." I ignored them, dropped the microphone, lifted my elaborate wedding dress train, and turned to leave. Julian roared my name. "Eleanor! Stop. Do you really think you can walk out of this door today?" I didn't look back. As I reached the door, I paused, turned, and gave him a brilliant smile. "I forgot to tell you, I sent a copy of the video to all major media outlets, and thoughtfully included your son's birth certificate. I wish you both ruin and to be forever bound together." With that, I got into my friend's car, pursued by countless flashing lights. The car sped away, leaving the ridiculous farce far behind. Soft music played in the car. I kicked off my high heels, tore off my wedding veil, and sank into the soft seat. "Feel good?" my friend Alex asked me as he drove. "It's all right." I was telling the truth. There was no satisfying thrill of revenge I had imagined, just a weariness, like dust settling. Alex looked at me in the rearview mirror. "What's next?" "Julian and the won't let this go." "I know. In my previous life, they used every means possible to silence me. They coerced me, tempted me, and even threatened my parents' safety. It was then that I first witnessed the filth beneath their polished exterior. Recalling how Julian had gradually seduced me, a wave of nausea washed over me. We met at a party. I was the beloved daughter, and he was a newcomer, fresh out, with acting skills but no connections. A spoiled rich kid deliberately picked a fight with me, and he stepped in, taking a drink for me. He was wearing a cheap suit then, but his eyes were clear and bright. He said, "Ms. Eleanor, don't be afraid." I was fooled by that upright yet struggling appearance. I thought he was a pure soul in a corrupt world, and I went against my family, using all my resources to promote him. I helped him rise from a minor actor to the throne of an A-list actor. Looking back, that heroic rescue was nothing more than a meticulously planned act by him and Stella. The goal was to latch onto me, to latch onto the. A dull ache in my chest, I pressed down hard. "Let's go to the hospital first. Margaret might need emergency care." "It's already arranged. Robert is with Margaret, she'll be fine." Alex drove the car into a heavily guarded gated community. "This is my place. You can stay here and rest easy. Turn off your phone, don't contact anyone." I nodded and got out of the car. Meanwhile, at the residence, as soon as Julian returned home, his father Richard slapped him to the ground. "You unfilial son. You've completely disgraced the." Julian's mother, Victoria, heartbroken, helped her son up, but she too was trembling with rage. "Julian, how could you be so foolish? The internet is flooded with news about you, and the company's stock price has already started to fall." Julian covered his face, his eyes sinister. "Dad, Mom, this isn't the time to scold me. We need to handle PR immediately." "How can we do PR? That has already been released. The evidence is undeniable." Richard was so angry he picked up a teacup, intending to smash it. "Just say Eleanor fabricated the video out of love-turned-hatred to slander me," Julian said through clenched teeth. "She has a history of mental illness, we can approach it from that angle." Victoria's eyes lit up. "Right. Say she was provoked and had a mental breakdown. As long as we stick to that, the public might not believe her alone. And," Julian looked at the woman cowering and trembling in the corner, "you immediately post on social media, saying the person in the video isn't you, that it's AI face swapping, and that you're also a victim." Stella nodded tearfully. Okay, I'll do whatever you say, Julian." And Julian's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. "We must find her immediately. Make her come out and clarify it herself. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." He took out his phone. And called me. No answer. He dialed again. Still no answer. "Damn it." Julian, infuriated, smashed his phone onto the floor. Victoria walked over, patted his shoulder, her voice turning cold. "Son, don't worry. She can't escape. I've already called your grandfather, he'll handle it." Upon hearing the words grandfather, Julian's chaotic thoughts finally calmed down a little. His grandfather was a truly powerful figure in Metropolitan City. With him intervening, there might still be a turn of events. Victoria looked at her son and spoke slowly. "That little girl from the is too naive. Does she think she can bring down the by ruining your reputation? She'll soon learn that in the face of absolute power, the so-called truth is worthless." She took out her phone and dialed a number. When the call connected, her voice held a condescending command. "Hello, it's me. Eleanor should be hiding by now. Use all your connections and find her for me. Remember, alive." I stayed at Alex's villa for 3 days. In those 3 days, the outside world had been turned upside down. They had indeed launched their strongest PR offensive. Julian's studio statement: "The online video is maliciously edited and synthesized with AI face-swapping technology. The police have been notified. Ms. Eleanor, due to excessive pre-wedding stress, developed delusions, and extreme behavior. We express our deep regret for this. Stella in tears at the press conference: "I'm not a homewrecker, I'm also a victim." Renowned psychiatrist's analysis: "Eleanor may suffer from erotomania." Online trolls swarmed everywhere, and public opinion instantly reversed. I went from a strong female lead who bravely exposed a scoundrel to a crazy woman scorned and driven by hatred. My family background, my past, even my experience of seeing a psychologist in university due to stress, were all dug up. The internet was filled with condemnation against me. "I told you, rich girls are rarely normal. Their possessiveness is too strong. If they can't have it, they'll destroy it." Felt for Julian, stuck with such a crazy person. Stella is so pitiful, dragged into this for no reason. Alex handed me the tablet, his face grim. The PR is too powerful, they can twist black into white. I calmly read the offensive comments, feeling no ripple inside. All of this was within my expectations. In my previous life, they used this exact tactic to corner me. How are Robert and Margaret? That's what I cared about more. Robert and Margaret are fine. Uncle used his connections to suppress some of the trending topic, but it seems higher-ups have gotten involved. Alex's brow was deeply furrowed. Julian's grandfather is a big shot in the military and political circles. Uncle's company has had several projects halted recently, it's clear they are behind it. My hands on my knees slowly tightened. They were using this tactic again. Using the people I cared about most to force my hand. Eleanor, Alex looked at me worriedly, they are too powerful. Maybe we should go abroad and lie low for a while? I shook my head. We can hide for a while, but not forever. And if I leave, they'll only escalate their actions against Robert and Margaret. Then what do? We can't just sit here and do nothing. I looked at Alex and suddenly smiled. Who said I'm going to sit here and do nothing? I took a USB drive out of the bag I had with me. Do you remember what I asked you to investigate about Stella's past? Alex paused, then understood. You mean her high school days? Yes. Stella's public image had always been that of a rising star from a humble background, striving hard. But no one knew that in high school, she was a complete delinquent. She bullied classmates, extorted money, and even drove a girl to jump from a building, only because she was a minor at the time, and the victim's parents were paid off by was the incident suppressed. In my previous life, just before I died, I accidentally overheard a conversation between Julian and her, and only then learned this secret. In this life, I had Alex investigate beforehand and obtain all the evidence, including testimony from classmates at the time, and the photocopy of diary of the girl who jumped. You want to expose this? Alex's eyes lit up. This is a huge bombshell. Enough to ruin Stella forever. No. I shook my head. If we expose it now, they will just dismiss it as another slander from me, this crazy woman. I need to wait for the right moment. When they think they have the upper hand, when they're most smug. I handed the USB drive to Alex. Help me deliver this to someone. Who? Marcus, the CEO of Zenith. Zenith was Julian's rival company, and Marcus and Julian had a long-standing feud. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Alex immediately understood what I meant. Alright, I'll go do it right away. After left, I was alone in the villa. I turned on my phone, and countless missed calls and abusive messages flooded in. Among them, an unknown number had persistently called over a dozen times. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. On the other end of the line, a dignified yet chillingly cold female voice spoke. It was Julian's mother, Victoria. Eleanor, had your fun yet? There wasn't a trace of warmth in her voice. You've hidden for 3 days, it's time to come out, isn't it? Miss Victoria, what can I do for you? I said calmly. I'll give you 2 choices. Victoria's voice carried an undeniable arrogance. First, immediately hold a press conference, admit the video was fabricated by you, apologize to Julian and Stella, then get out of Metropolitan City and never come back. Second, I'll make your parents' company go bankrupt and ensure they spend the rest of their lives in destitution. A blatant threat. Exactly like in my previous life. I choose a third option. I let out a soft laugh. What? Victoria seemed unprepared for my answer. I choose to make the pay for everything you've done. Overconfident. Victoria was enraged by me. Eleanor, don't push your luck. Do you really think you alone can shake the? You'll be on your knees begging me soon enough. She slammed the phone down. I put down my phone and looked out the window. The tide was about to turn. Just then, my phone rang again. It was a video call request. The caller was Julian. I declined, but he stubbornly sent it again. I frowned and pressed answer. The face that appeared on the screen, however, wasn't Julian's. It was a little boy. He looked about 4 or 5, sturdy and mischievous, with features 7 parts similar to Julian's. It was Julian and Stella's son, Leo, the child I had loved as my own for 4 years in my previous life. At that moment, he was in Stella's arms, facing the camera, and calling out in a childish voice. Bad woman. Don't you dare bully my mommy. Behind him, Stella gave me a triumphant and malicious smile. My heart was sharply pierced. Leo. In my previous life, shortly after I married Julian, he came back with an infant in his arms. He told me it was the child of a distant relative, orphaned and helpless. I believed him. I named him Leo, hoping he would live a life of peace and joy. I held him, fed him, taught him to walk, and heard him utter his first mommy. I treated him as my own, pouring all my motherly love into him. It wasn't until just before my death that I learned it had all been a deception. He was Julian and Stella's biological son. And I was merely a ridiculous free nanny. Now, this child I had once sincerely loved was looking at me with hatred, calling me a bad woman. Stella's voice came from behind the camera, sweet and soft, yet filled with triumph. Ms. Eleanor, look, Leo is so protective of me. Blood ties are truly wonderful, aren't they? Even if you raised him for 4 years, the closest person to him in his heart will still be me, his birth mother. She deliberately emphasized the words birth mother. Julian's figure appeared in the frame. He took the phone from Stella, his face grim. Eleanor, do you see? This is my son. I originally intended to tell you after the wedding, when the time was right. It was you who personally ruined everything. His tone was filled with accusation and anger, without a trace of guilt. So, your plan was to be tricked into raising his child, help you raise your illegitimate son, and then, once you and the one he always pined for were stable, kick me to the curb? I retorted coldly. I didn't. Julian instinctively refuted, but his eyes darted away. I just didn't want to hurt Stella and the child. How noble of you to say. I smiled, but the warmth didn't reach my eyes. Julian, you really are a responsible, good man. To avoid hurting your mistress and illegitimate child, you comfortably hurt your fiancé. You're truly disgusting. Shut up. Julian, stung by my words, became enraged. Eleanor, this is my final warning. Stop your little games immediately. Come out and apologize obediently. Otherwise, I won't just go after your parents' company, I'll make sure you lose everything. Did he think I still cared about him? Did he think I would still be threatened by him? Julian, I said, every word clear. The game has only just begun. Whatever you have, direct it at me. Don't touch Robert and Margaret. Too late. Julian's expression turned ferocious. I gave you a chance. From now on, I'll make you understand what regret feels like. He hung up the phone. Almost simultaneously, Robert's phone rang, his voice filled with unprecedented panic and fear. Eleanor, something's happened. Quick, look at the news. Your brother has been taken by the police department. My mind went blank with a buzz. My brother Noah was only 19 this year, still in university. He was simple-minded, the apple of my parents and my eye. Julian actually went after him. With trembling hands, I opened the news app. A bold news headline immediately caught my eye. Metropolitan City University rocked by vicious assault, son of prominent entrepreneur, Noah, severely injured classmate with a knife, suspected of drug-induced hallucination. The accompanying photo showed my brother, being escorted into a police car by 2 officers. He was wearing a blood-stained school uniform, his face filled with confusion and fear. Impossible. My brother had never even gotten into a fight growing up. How could he possibly have injured someone with a knife? And drugs? This was definitely a frame-up. A setup. It was Julian's revenge. My blood rushed to my head in an instant, and my limbs turned cold. It felt as if an invisible hand was tightly gripping my chest, the pain making it impossible to breathe. Julian, you're so ruthless. You knew Noah was my weak spot, my lifeline. In my previous life, you didn't touch my family. In this life, because of my defiance, you actually turned your blade on Noah, the brother I loved most. My dropped to the floor, its screen shattered. A metallic taste welled up in my throat, and I could no longer stand. My vision went black. I didn't faint. In the second before my consciousness completely succumbed to darkness, I dug my fingernails hard into my palm, and the sharp pain instantly jolted me awake. I couldn't collapse. If I collapsed, what about Noah? I leaned against the wall, gasping for air, steadying my trembling body. Alex had returned at some point. He rushed over to support me, his face deathly pale. Eleanor, are you okay? I'm fine. I cut him off, my voice so hoarse it didn't sound like my own. Julian did this. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. No one else but him. Alex slammed his fist against the wall, his eyes red-rimmed. Bastard. How dare he? He dared. I slowly straightened up, the last trace of warmth vanishing from my eyes. He thinks this will force me to submit. So what do we do now? Call the police department? Or confer? ONT Julian? It's no use. I shook my head. Since he dared to do it, he must have prepared thoroughly. We have no evidence. Confronting him now would only lead to humiliation. So we just let it go? Alex roared, unwilling to give up. Of course not. I picked up my phone with the shattered screen, pulled out the SIM card, and replaced it with a new one. Then, I dialed Marcus's number. Marcus, the CEO of Zenith, Julian's archenemy. Alex had already delivered the USB drive containing Stella's dirt. Now, it was time to talk to him. It rang 3 times before it was answered. Hello? A deep, magnetic male voice responded. Mr. Marcus, this is Eleanor. On the other end of the line, there was a few seconds of silence. Ms. Eleanor, I've been waiting for your call for a long time. Marcus's voice held a hint of amusement. What you sent me is very interesting. That was just an appetizer. I said directly. I want to make a deal with you. Oh? Tell me about it. I'll help you bring down Julian and his Veritas, and you help me get my brother out and ensure my parents' safety. My conditions made Marcus fall silent again. This time, the silence lasted longer. So long that I thought he would refuse. Ms. Eleanor, you have quite an appetite. He finally spoke. Bringing down Julian is easy, but Veritas is backed by and they are backed by people you can't afford to offend. Why should I take that risk? Because what I have isn't just enough to ruin Stella. I stared out the window, speaking each word distinctly. It can also bring Julian, and even the entire Hayes family, to utter ruin. Why do you think I dared to expose him at the wedding? I have their weak spot. Of course, this was bluster. My biggest card was Stella's incriminating past. As for the weak spot, I was still searching for it. But now, I had to impress Marcus, to make him believe I had this capability. Sure enough, Marcus's breathing became heavier. What spot? I can't tell you yet. He LD the upper hand. Mr. Marcus, you just need to tell me, are you taking this deal, or not? If falls, you should know better than I do how much of Veritas's market share Zenith can seize. This is your best chance to become the industry leader in one fell swoop. I was gambling on Marcus's ambition. On the other end of the line, I heard his soft chuckle. Ms. Eleanor, you're more interesting than I imagined. All right. He said just one word. I'll take this deal. Regarding your brother, I'll send the best lawyers to handle it. He'll be released unharmed within 3 days. As for your parents, I'll also send people to protect them discreetly. Now, can you tell me your plan? My suspended heart finally eased by half. It's simple. The first step is to completely shatter Stella's pure and innocent image. Marcus was highly efficient. The very next morning, a shocking bombshell dropped online. An account named Forgotten published a long article, detailing the full story of how Stella, the rising star, bullied a classmate in high school and drove her to jump to her death. The article was accompanied by extensive evidence. There was recorded testimony from former classmates, identifying Stella as the ringleader of the bullying. There were transfer records from students who had been extorted. Most damning was the photocopy of diary of the girl who jumped. Every stroke in the diary recorded her despair at how Stella had humiliated, beaten, and isolated her. She said I was ugly, like a pig, and didn't deserve to live in this world. She took all my pocket money and told everyone not to talk to me. Today, she cornered me in the restroom and held my head in a bucket of water. I nearly suffocated. I'm in so much pain, I don't want to live anymore. If I die, will they leave me alone? The last page of the diary bore 3 blood-red words. Stella. This long article was like a bombshell dropped into a calm lake. It instantly ignited the entire internet. Zenith's marketing accounts, like sharks scenting blood, frantically reposted and promoted it. The top trending topic exploded. Hashtag Stella bullying, hashtag Stella drove classmate to suicide, hashtag Stella out of the entertainment industry, hashtag online viewers who had previously been crying for Stella and felt for her being tricked into being a mistress were all dumbfounded. Public opinion underwent a shocking reversal. Oh my God! Is this real? How utterly malicious. You can't judge a book by its cover. I actually thought she was pure and pitiful, gross. No wonder Eleanor wanted to expose her. She's a vicious woman after all. People like her should be blacklisted. Get out of the entertainment industry. Stella's social media comments section was instantly flooded with angry online viewers. All sorts of insults and curses poured in, overwhelming her. All her endorsements were terminated overnight. The TV series she was filming also made an emergency announcement of a cast change. At Hayes' residence, Julian looked at the news on his phone, his face ashen. He kicked over the coffee table in front of him. Idiots. A bunch of useless idiots. He roared at the PR team on the other end of the line. What do I pay you for? Why can't you suppress such a huge scandal? Mr. Julian, this time it's Zenith setting the pace. Our people can't get involved at all. I don't care what methods you use. Get that trending topic removed immediately. Julian hung up the phone, his chest heaving violently. Stella collapsed onto the floor, her face bloodless, trembling all over. Julian. What do we do? What should I do? She cried and clutched at Julian's trouser leg. It's over. Everything I had is over. Julian looked at her in this state, a flicker of disgust and irritation in his eyes. Why are you crying? Now you're scared? Why didn't you think about the consequences when you did all this? For the first time, he spoke harshly to Stella. Stella froze, looking at him in disbelief. Julian. Are you blaming me? What else? Julian shook off her hand, his eyes cold. Stella, I'm asking you, are these things true? I. Stella stammered, unable to speak. Julian's heart sank little by little. He had always thought Stella was just a little vain and liked to flirt. He hadn't imagined her past could be so sordid. A woman who had driven a classmate to death. This stain would forever be branded on her, and it would also be branded on Julian. You've disappointed me greatly. Julian looked at her, speaking each word distinctly. Victoria came downstairs, her face equally grim. Now is not the time to dwell on this. She cast a cold glance at Stella. This matter must be dealt with immediately. Otherwise, not only her, but you, Julian, will be dragged down with her. Mom, what should we do then? Find a scapegoat. A glint of ruthlessness flashed in Victoria's eyes. Publicly claim it was malicious rumor-mongering by another female artist in the company who had a rivalry with her. Then, pay to send the parents of the girl who jumped abroad, to silence them forever. As long as there are no eyewitnesses, she can't be prosecuted based solely on those so-called recordings and diaries. But, it's clearly Eleanor behind this. Julian gritted his teeth. I know. Victoria sneered. Does she think she can win like this? So naive. She walked over to Julian, lowering her voice. Son, how did things go with Noah? Julian's face revealed a hint of triumphant cruelty. Mom, don't worry. I've already found someone to fabricate evidence, drug use, aggravated assault with a knife, multiple charges combined, enough to keep him inside for a decade. Eleanor must be on the verge of losing her mind by now. I'm eager to see whose hand is stronger, hers or mine. Julian wanted to see me break down. But I wouldn't. 3 days later, thanks to the efforts of the top-tier legal team Marcus sent, Noah was acquitted and released. The so-called Huma and material evidence, under the cross-examination of professional lawyers, was riddled with flaws and couldn't withstand scrutiny. The classmate who was severely injured also admitted to taking money and cooperating with the act. The frame-up scheme was exposed in court. I watched from the car window as my brother walked out of the police department. He had lost weight and was pale, but his eyes were clear and bright, free of his previous fear. Robert and Margaret rushed up and hugged him tightly, the three of them embracing in tears. My eyes welled up too. Julian, your first move has been thwarted. Instead of going home, I went straight to Marcus's company. Marcus was waiting for me in his top-floor office. He wore a well-tailored suit and gold-rimmed glasses. He appeared refined and elegant, but his eyes behind the lenses were sharp as an eagle's. Ms. Eleanor, it's a pleasure working with you. He personally poured me a cup of tea. Mr. Marcus, you're too kind. I should be thanking you. I took the teacup and got straight to the point. Stella's scandal was just the first step. Julian's foundation lies in his status in the entertainment industry and his fan base. What we need to do is completely destroy it. What's your plan? Marcus looked at me with interest. Julian's greatest commercial value comes from his perfect persona of being devoted and faithful. I set down the teacup. The wedding video merely ripped open a small wound. The public's current impression of him is that of a victim blinded by a mistress. What we need to do is make them see that he wasn't blinded at all. He's a complete hypocrite and a selfish scoundrel. How do we do that? It's simple, make him, with his own hands, destroy his own persona. I looked at Marcus and laid out my plan. That same evening, Julian received a phone call. It was an informant he had placed within Marcus's company. Mr. Julian, I found out. Eleanor is at Marcus's villa right now. It looks like tea. Hey, reliving together. Julian's blood instantly boiled. Eleanor and Marcus? His archenemy? When did they get together? An unspeakable wave of anger and humiliation swept over him. He had never taken Marcus seriously. Now, the man he despised most was living with his nominal wife. This was an utter disgrace to him. Send me the address. He hung up the phone, grabbed his car keys, and stormed out. He had to see it with his own eyes. He had to confront Eleanor and demand to know what she was up to. He drove recklessly, arriving at the villa address the informant had provided. It was indeed Marcus's private villa. He stood outside, watching the light glow from an upstairs bedroom and the shadows of two figures cast upon the curtains. A man and a woman, standing close, their gestures intimate. Julian's eyes instantly burned red. It was Eleanor. He couldn't be mistaken about that figure. The blaze of fury consumed his last shred of reason. He rushed forward frenziedly, banging hard on the door. Eleanor! Get out here! You wretched woman! Get out here! The door opened. Marcus, wearing a bathrobe, opened it. His hair was slightly damp, and he calmly regarded Julian, who looked like a madman, standing outside the door. Mr. Julian, what brings you here so late? Where's Eleanor? Julian pushed him aside, trying to rush in. Tell her to get out here and face me. Why should my wife see you? Marcus blocked him, his voice flat but laced with provocation. Wife? Julian froze, then burst into maniacal laughter. Your wife? Marcus, are you out of your mind? Eleanor is my wife. We even had a wedding. Oh? Marcus raised an eyebrow. But as I recall, at that wedding, the groom seemed to be involved with another woman, didn't he? And did you ever get your marriage certificate? Julian's laughter abruptly ceased. Marriage certificate. Because of the wedding mishap, we actually hadn't gotten around to registering our marriage. So, legally speaking, he and I were nothing. As he was stunned, I came down from upstairs. I was also wearing a bathrobe, my long hair cascading around me, a soft flush on my face. I walked up to Marcus, naturally linked my arm through his, and leaned my head on his shoulder. Honey, who is it? So noisy. My voice was alluring. Julian watched our intimate matter, watched me call Marcus honey, and his entire body stiffened. He stared at me intently, his eyes filled with shock, rage, and a hint of panic, which he himself hadn't even noticed. Eleanor. You. It was as if he didn't recognize me. Mr. Julian, please leave. I said languidly. I'm tired, I need to rest. And in the future, please don't bother us as a couple anymore. After saying that, I stood on tiptoe and, right in front of him, kissed Marcus on the cheek. Then, I turned and walked into the living room with Marcus. The front door was ruthlessly shut in Julian's face. Julian didn't know how he had left. He only felt as if a piece of his heart had been ripped out, leaving an empty, aching void. Eleanor was with Marcus. She called him honey. She kissed him. Eleanor, who had once lived for him, who had seen him as her entire world, was now leaning against another man, smiling radiantly. Why? They'd only known each other for a few days? Was her love for me all fake before? No, it couldn't be. Whether someone loved you or not, their eyes couldn't lie. He clearly remembered the unwavering love and adoration in Eleanor's eyes when she looked at him over the past 5 years. But just now, the way she looked at him was nothing but coldness and disgust. Why had it come to this? Was it because he cheated with Stella? But that was just a fling. The person he loved. Julian's thoughts became muddled for the first time. Who was the person he loved? Was it Stella, delicate and pitiful, who always stirred his protective instincts? Or was it Eleanor, who was always behind him, managing everything for him, leaving him free from worries? He had always thought he loved Stella. But why did his heart ache so much when he saw Eleanor with another man? It hurt so much he could barely breathe. It hurt 100, even 1,000 times more than when the video was exposed at the wedding. He drove furiously through the streets like a madman until his phone rang. It was Stella calling. Julian, where are you? I'm so scared. Her voice was tearful, as fragile as ever. But this time, Julian only felt an overwhelming irritation as he listened. Don't bother me. For the first time, he yelled back impatiently, then hung up the phone directly. Inside the villa, I released Marcus's arm and put some distance between us. Thanks, Mr. Marcus, nice acting. You're too kind, Ms. Eleanor, the feeling is mutual. Marcus took off his glasses and rubbed his temples. But are you sure this trick will work? He'll believe it. I watched the sports car speeding away outside the window, my eyes cold. Julian is an extremely arrogant and selfish man. He might not love me, but he absolutely cannot accept something that belongs to him being claimed by someone else. The more intimate I appear with other men, the more it will provoke him, making him lose his reason. A person who loses their reason is most prone to making mistakes. Marcus looked at me, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. You seem to know him very well. After all, I once loved him. I uttered the 3 words flatly, then turned and picked up something from the sofa. A hidden camera. Everything that had just happened was completely recorded, including his frenzied door banging, his abusive words, and his devastated expression after learning we were living together. I sent the video to Alex. Headline: A-list actor invades private residence late at night, Harris's ex-fiancé, and her new flame. Love turned to hate, or rage out of humiliation? Alex instantly replied, received. I'll arrange it right away. After doing all that, I looked at Marcus. Mr. Marcus, it's time for step 2. Aside from his reputation, money is what Julian cares about most. Veritas is his lifeline. I need you to help me short Veritas's stock. Marcus's gaze finally turned serious. Shorting a listed company is no small matter. It requires enormous capital, and the risk is extremely high. I'll provide the money, I said calmly. All my assets, plus the dowry my mother gave me, will be enough. Eleanor, are you crazy? This is a gamble. What if it fails? I won't fail. I cut him off. Because will help us. I pushed a document across to Marcus. It contained all of Veritas's investment plans for the next quarter, including a blockbuster film they were about to start shooting. This is. Marcus looked at me in shock. How do you have this? This was Veritas's top business secret. In my previous life. No, I saw it by chance before. Julian trusted me. Many of his documents were kept at home, and he never hid them from me. And this blockbuster was a complete scam. It was a tool Julian and his father, Richard, used to solicit investments and launder money. Once the project was launched, the invested funds would flow into their private accounts through various channels. And the film, for various reasons, would eventually fail to be completed and just fizzle out. All investors would lose their money. Marcus looked at the document, cold sweat beading on his forehead. If all of this was true, then the father and son were playing with fire. I want you to leak this information anonymously to the Securities and Exchange, SEC, when their project launches and their stock price is at its peak. I looked at Marcus, speaking each word distinctly. Pulling the rug out from under them, a killing blow. Julian's scandal exploded again. The video of him banging on my door and harassing me late at night was posted online. Although the footage was edited so Marcus's face wasn't clear, the phrase ex-fiancé's new flame was enough to spark speculation. Hashtag Julian hashtag if I can't have you no one can real life hashtag a new wave of public outcry once again thrust him into the center of controversy. His image as a deceived victim completely collapsed. It was replaced by labels like paranoid, violent, and a sore loser. Veritas's stock price plummeted in response. Julian was overwhelmed, juggling the public relations crisis while trying to appease frightened investors. As for Stella, she was completely abandoned by Victoria and put on ice. She came crying to Julian, but he refused to see her. Julian, please help me. I know I made a mistake. Get out. Julian spat out a single word coldly from behind the door. Now, he felt disgusted even seeing that woman. His mind was filled with images of me and Marcus being intimate. He was losing his mind. He started frantically calling and texting me. From initial threats and insults, to later demanding answers, and finally, pleading. Eleanor, why are you doing this to me? Was our love of so many years all fake? What exactly is your relationship with Marcus? Explain it to me clearly. Eleanor, I was wrong. Please come back? Let's start over. I've broken up with Stella. I'll only have you from now on. I looked at those messages and didn't reply to a single one. In my previous life, I had been deceived by his false tenderness. He always hurt me, then uttered a few soft words, giving me just enough to hold on to. And I, like a tamed pet, forgave him again and again. Until, in the end, he left me with nothing. In this life, I wouldn't fall for it again. Unders and my joint short selling, Veritas's stock plummeted. To stabilize the stock price, Richard and Julian made a desperate gamble, investing all their capital into that blockbuster money laundering project. They even issued an announcement, claiming the project had secured investments from overseas giants and had a promising future. Sure enough, the stock price was forcibly pulled back up. The father and son finally breathed a sigh of relief. They even popped open champagne at home to celebrate, believing they had weathered the crisis. It was on that very day that I, through Marcus's channels, handed over the most crucial evidence to the Securities and Exchange, SEC. The next day, Veritas was placed under investigation for suspected financial fraud and illegal money laundering. Richard and Julian, as the legal representative and primary person in charge, were taken away by the police. The news sent shockwaves through the entire financial community and entertainment industry. Veritas's stock price instantly crashed, hitting its daily limit, then hitting it again, eventually becoming a worthless stock nobody touched. Countless lost all their money. They were finished. It took less than a month for them to fall from the heights to hell. I watched on television as Julian was handcuffed and escorted into a police car. His hair was disheveled, his eyes vacant, and he had none of his past vitality. As he passed the camera, he suddenly stopped, staring intently into the lens, as if he were looking at me through the screen. His lips moved, silently mouthing a few words. I understood. He was saying, "Why?" I turned off the television. There was no why. All of this was what you deserved. A few days later, Alex came to find me. "Eleanor, Julian wants to see you." His only request at the detention was to see me. "I won't see him." I refused directly. "He said he has something about your parents he wants to tell you personally." Alex's next words changed my mind. I went. In the cold visiting room, I saw Julian. He was wearing a prison uniform, haggard and gaunt, his eyes bloodshot. When he saw me, he excitedly lunged at the visiting window. "Eleanor, you finally came to see me. Tell me, what about my parents?" I looked at him coldly, unwilling to waste another word. My indifference stung him. He gave a self-deprecating laugh, and his eyes turned venomous. "Eleanor, you're so ruthless. Do you want me dead that badly? If I'm miserable, you will be too." He suddenly leaned closer to the glass, lowered his voice, and spoke each word distinctly. "Do you know? Your parents' car accident back then wasn't an accident." My heart sank. My parents had been in a serious car accident when I was very young. That accident had left Margaret unable to have more children. This was why they cherished me so deeply, and why they later felt guilty but still supported my decision to adopt Leo when I couldn't have children myself. Everyone had told me it was an accident. If not an accident, then what? My voice was trembling. It was intentional. Julian looked at me, a look of vindictive satisfaction on his face. "It was my mother, Victoria, who arranged it." "Why?" My mind went blank, unable to think. "Because your father, Robert, was her first love. But he married your mother, Margaret, the only daughter of for his future. She always harbored resentment. So, she orchestrated that car accident, intending for your parents to die together. She didn't expect them to be so lucky and survive." "Impossible!" I shrieked. "You're lying to me. You're making it up." "Whether I'm lying or not, just ask your father, Robert." Julian leaned back in his chair, laughing cruelly. "Go ask him if he still hides photos of Victoria from her youth in his study." "Eleanor, do you think you've won just because you took down You're wrong. You and your father, Robert, were merely pawns in Victoria's revenge against my pursuing you, my marrying you. It was all arranged by her. She wanted you to fall in love with her enemy's son, then be brutally abandoned, so you'd experience the taste of betrayal by your beloved." Ha 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 ha. He laughed wildly, like a madman. I was ice cold, I felt a chilling dread. So that's how it was. All along, I had been a joke. My love, my marriage, everything I had experienced, stemmed from the grudges of the previous generation. I was a complete puppet. Manipulated from start to finish. Visiting hours ended. I walked out of the detention, shaken and distraught. The sunlight was blinding, but I felt no warmth. I went home. My parents were in the living room, watching TV with Noah, a happy and harmonious family. When saw me return, she smiled and came to greet me. "Eleanor, you're back. Come quickly, Mom made you some soup." I looked at her loving smile, at Robert's gentle gaze, and my tears, no longer able to be held back, streamed down my face. I didn't question my father. Nothing mattered anymore. Let the grudges of the previous generation be buried with the downfall of All I wanted was for my family to be well, now. A month later, the court handed down its verdict. Richard, Victoria, and Julian were all sentenced to life imprisonment for multiple combined charges. Veritas faced bankruptcy. Stella was blacklisted online due to the bullying incident. It was said she later suffered a mental breakdown and was sent to a psychiatric hospital. Everyone who had harmed me had received their just punishment. I sold all my properties in Metropolitan City and left the city that held too much pain, taking my parents and brother with me. We moved to a warm coastal. I used my funds to open a small flower shop. Alex and Marcus visited me a few times. Alex asked me what my plans were for the future. Marcus asked if I wanted to join his company, offering me the position of vice. I declined both. I just wanted a peaceful life. One day, as I was trimming flowers in my shop, the wind chimes above the door jingled. A man in a clean white dress shirt walked in. He had refined features and a gentle demeanor. He walked up to me, picked up a bouquet of sunflowers, and asked softly, "Excuse me, is there still room in your heart?" I looked up, met his bright eyes, and smiled. Sunlight streamed through the window, bathing us in its warmth and brightness. I knew. My new life was just beginning.